2 decades ago are only now becoming clear. In a statement, the council said it was working closely with the police and is determined to do all it can to ensure perpetrators of abuse are brought to justice. Member of Parliament John...
My seat, my legacy and its family, we all want to know why.
All her life, the mystery of her father's murder has loomed over Kidist Forsyth. In 1993, Vulik Forsyth was a manager in the housing department of London's Lambeth Council. 3 months before she was born, he was bludgeoned to death and his flat set on fire. Now Sky News has seen evidence that he could have been about to expose an alleged paedophile ring operating within council premises. At the time, this Crime Watch reconstruction appealed for information. Now this murder is one of the events Metropolitan Police officers looking into Westminster linked to the police are re-investigating. This internal council report obtained by Sky News could be key. It details allegations of violent rapes conducted on council premises and the sexual abuse of children. It's here at what is still the headquarters for Lambeth Housing Department that a paedophile ring operating within the council is alleged to have carried out sexual assaults. They used the basement, the report says, where they could rape victims without fear of being interrupted. And the report cites new witness evidence suggesting Vulik Forsyth may indeed have been killed as part of the cover-up. He tried to get away from the housing department, telling colleagues he had information which put him at risk. Our investigations unearthed some extraordinary allegations, and a senior detective told me they've always been taken seriously by the police, but this is their first chance at being properly investigated. That's something the family of Vulik Forsyth told me they welcome.
Honestly, it's worse. I can't believe some of the stuff that's in here. I can't believe actually happened and has just gone under the radar and hasn't been investigated for next into
This is the first time Kidist has seen written in black and white what she's always suspected.
It says that he was willing to spill the beans and he was scared that if he moved to another department that he could have to get to him. So it seems that he was very fearful about something going on at work.
The significance of events that took place in Lambeth 2 decades ago are only now becoming clear. In a statement, the council said it was working closely with the police and is determined to do all it can to ensure perpetrators of abuse are brought to justice. Member of Parliament John Mann is a former Lambeth councillor.
There's been a huge cover-up. There are many victims. There are deaths and murders. It's about time the truth came out in terms of child abuse in Lambeth.
The police have issued a new plea for victims to come forward, and for the first time, Vulik Forsyth's family know more about the abuse he died before he could expose, but they will not give up until they know the truth.
I think that veterans are trained, myself included, that pain is something that is not expressed.
We've heard a lot of interviews with Kanye West.
Everybody says, who does he think he is? I just told you who I thought I was.
Now Kanye's written his own cover story for Paper Magazine. Yep, that Paper Magazine. Kanye covers old ground in the lengthy piece, like his next level creativity and how innovative he is. But here's something new, the Illuminati. Speaking about Jay-Z's Tidal launch, West says, I heard a comment, a joke, about the Tidal press conference being an Illuminati moment. If there was actually an Illuminati, it would be more like the energy companies, not celebrities that gave their life to music and who are pinpointed as decoys for people who really run the world. I'm tired of people pinpointing musicians as the Illuminati. Now look, maybe these rumors about Bey and Jay and Kanye are garbage, but we do want to note the definition of Illuminati: people claiming to possess special enlightenment or knowledge of something.
You know, I'm a creative genius, and there's no other way to word it.
We love ya, Yeezy, Illuminati or not, but what do you guys think of Kanye's new piece in Paper Magazine? Let us know on Twitter.
These will be
my final show performances in London. This will be it. This is it. When I say this is it, it really means this is it. Performances in London.
It to me. He explained it's because of my catalog, which is my publishing, and they're after it and they want it.
These will be my
Atera is an all-in-one IT platform that prevents problems before they happen. IT Pro.
These will be my final show performances in London. This will be it. This is it. When I say this is it, it really means this is it.
Voluntary manslaughter, felony, Dr. Murray. How do you plead?
Your Honor, I am an innocent man. I therefore plead not guilty.
I truly feel that Conrad Murray is simply the fall guy. This was definitely something that was premeditated, that they had planned to do, and they planned to take my brother out, and my brother knew it, and that's why he told me repeatedly and repeatedly and repeatedly that this was going to happen to him. He explained it to me. He explained it's because of my catalog, which is my publishing, and they're after it, and they want it, and they want their hands on it, and they want to take it away from me. So Michael developed this love-hate relationship with his catalog. I don't want it because it's going to destroy my life. No, it's mine. I'm going to keep it. I'm not going to let them rip it apart and take it from me. This went back and forth. I began to see his personality change. Michael had notes in his house saying how he hates John Branca. He hates Randy Phillips. He doesn't want them around. He'll never fly with them. He just went on and on expressing how he felt about these people. These people were all involved. Mind you, the will, I truly believe and I know that the will is fake. Because Michael was in New York when the will was signed, and they say he signed it in LA, and he did not. And they know this. But yet they put themselves as the executors on this estate. There was another guy that was in the will, Barry Siegel, but he pleasantly removed himself from it. Why would he do that? Because he knew that it was fake and he wasn't going to get involved in the skullduggery. That's why.
Mental illness seems to be at the center of many of these shootings, and Ben Tracy learned more today about the strange beliefs of the alleged LA airport killer.
The FBI agents who searched Paul Ciancia's apartment had a search warrant for his cell phone. They found it in his roommate's car. The warrant states they were looking for information relating to Ciancia's views on the legitimacy or activities of the United States government, including the existence of a plot to impose a new world order. Shortly after the rampage, police say they found a one-page letter in Ciancia's bag. It said he targeted TSA agents to, quote, instill fear in your traitorous minds, and also mentioned NWO, or New World Order. That's a century-old conspiracy theory, according to Mark Potok, who tracks extremist groups.
Basically identifies the federal government as an evil malefactor that is involved in the conspiracy to force the United States into a so-called one world government, known as the New World Order.
People who believe this theory are deeply suspicious of international organizations such as the United Nations and think the government plans a national seizure of all guns.
They believe that the federal government intends to impose martial law in the country any moment now, that martial law will be imposed with the aid of foreign troops, probably UN blue helmets.
Online talk shows perpetuate these anti-government views.
Federal security goon force?
And often mention TSA officers.
Now, so far, there is no evidence that the alleged LAX shooter was the member of any particular anti-government group. In fact, besides the letter that he had on him at the airport.
basically is that there's a lot of work going on in the aerospace industry that would indicate that we have black projects that have gone even darker.
Stefan Marinov was the leader of the European free energy movement. In 1997, he made tremendous strides in the technology. Before he could develop his first prototype, he fell out of a window. Dr. John Mullen, a nuclear physicist, used to work for McDonnell Douglas, one of the largest military contractors in the world. He died of arsenic poisoning in 2004. His girlfriend was originally a suspect, but she was found dead in her apartment shortly after. There are no more suspects, there is no investigation, there will be no trial. Dmitry Petronov invented a plasma battery that powered his home for 14 months. In 2010, he went to a bakery and was never seen again. Zachary Warfield was another inventor who developed his own plasma battery. Warfield visited Petronov to exchange information. That same year, Warfield died in a strange boating accident in Washington, D.C. Eugene Molov was a physicist and expert in cold fusion. He claimed he had a working prototype of a free energy device. In 2004, the day before he was to make a public announcement about his findings, he was beaten to death. Ari Dagos actually patented free energy technology based on the zero-point field. In 2007, he was about to get on a flight to meet investors who were going to fund his research. He was found dead in his car at the airport. Rory Johnson created a cold fusion laser-activated magnetic motor that generated over 500 horsepower. He planned a public demonstration of 4 vehicles equipped with this magnetron motor. The U.S. Department of Energy placed a restraining order on this technology preventing publication, and though in excellent health, he died unexpectedly soon after. Mark Tomian, a physicist, patented technology called a star drive, which uses zero-point energy, very similar to the ARV. In 2009, he developed a working prototype. Shortly after, he died from an unexpected cardiac event. His research is missing. Stan Myers developed a working engine that ran on water. In 1997, he died from what was officially reported as a cerebral hemorrhage. This happened while having lunch with 2 potential investors. His last words were, "I was poisoned." Now, remember I said that most of this episode comes from a documentary created by James Allen? He ruffled a lot of feathers doing his research, specifically at Lockheed Martin.
And so, I'm kind of mystified as why a lot more people haven't picked up on this and and sort of hammered on Lockheed or Grumman or whoever to say, are you guys really doing this? I actually called a spokesman at Lockheed and asked her straight up. I'm like, so what's going on with your electrogravitics program? And she's like, well, we're not at liberty to discuss those programs. And I'm like, really, why not? She's like, well, it might threaten our competitive advantage. And I really wish I'd gotten that on film or tape. Because my next documentary, Tom, are you listening? I want to do a investigative documentary on specifically on anti-gravity in the aerospace industry.
Oh, I can't wait to see that new documentary. This kid is a hero.
Was a hero.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me.
While still editing the film, before it was even released, James Allen was diagnosed with an aggressive form of cancer. He was dead in 3 months.
I'm so angry right now.
That interview clip I showed was from 6 weeks before his cancer diagnosis. Did he look sick to you?
No, he did not.
Autopsy results revealed an unbelievably aggressive tumor that usually occurs in patients with cancer for years, not weeks. And his blood contained 12 heavy metals and radioisotopes at toxic levels. Manganese, beryllium, thorium, and uranium were found in his blood. James Allen never got to see his documentary released. And his next film, which would expose anti-gravity technology being pursued by military contractors, now that would never happen.
This is a bunch of these government companies doing the. When are we gonna stand up and something about these?
Yeah, I know. Even Mark McCandlish was afraid.
You've actually heard a couple different stories about people being shut down when they're trying to implement this.
Or killed.
Yeah. I mean, there's many times I lay awake at night with my 9mm under my pillow, loaded, and I wonder why they haven't killed me. I honestly did.
Well, at least he made it, right? Tell me he made it. Did he make it?
Well,
oh no.
This past April, Mark was found dead in his apartment.
Let me guess.
He took his own life. Yep.
You better watch your back, sport.
I do. I honestly believe the only thing keeping me safe is all of you. I just hope that's enough.
Whatever those might be, there's not a sliver of doubt in my mind that it exists.
Nothing's going to happen economically, politically, or militarily. There's nothing on either side. It tells you that this is a very, very desperate act. This is a very desperate act of countries that are not willing to put their creation, i.e. Israel, because it's created by Britain and sustained by the United States. They're either not willing or incapable of telling their little pet to stop the genocide in Gaza. Tells you that who's really running the show here. It's Israel. It's Israel.
You know, it reminds me, I know we're both dog owners. It reminds me of the dog owners that you sometimes see out in the neighborhood, where despite the fact that they are the master or they're the owner, they're the ones who are supposed to be dictating things. You see the dog just going nuts. They're leading the show. They're darting. They're not paying attention to what their owner wants or is doing or saying. There's just no command there. It's kind of how I see Israel at the moment. While the U.S. certainly exercises an incredible amount of leverage, just if we look at the material side of this, the United States, without its aid, Israel would be in a lot of trouble in terms of its sheer influence in the region and perhaps its own existence as it currently is constituted. But at the same time, we have a situation now where Israel has gone so out of hand, has reacted in such a cruel and unusual way, even for its own very, very, very low standards, that the United States is the one looking. And I think this is important because a lot of people will say, oh, Danny, no, it's not. Israel is not the puppet master here. They're not leading the United States around. But it's the optics that in, a conflict like this and in a development like this, the optics truly do matter. And there are times where the perhaps the puppet ends up being the puppet master, given the host of maladies and issues that the United States is currently facing.
Yeah, and with Ukraine, it wasn't really as important to win the kind of hearts and minds. It was easy for them to do so, but it wasn't as important. For Israel, they need to have hearts and minds because that's how they survive. They need to. They need an emotional propaganda. They need to have people supporting them, and they just are losing that, and they're completely lost touch with reality. Somebody in the audience said, the U.S. is in charge. I will argue this to the death. Especially after the Epstein revelations, it's very clear and I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but it's very clear the United States is not in charge. I mean, pretty much a turning point after JFK is when the Israel really started taking the reins. You mentioned the aid; they can't survive without it. I don't even think that we can use the aid as blackmail anymore because they are blackmailing us on top of the aid. Like, they use the aid for whatever they want now. Look at their military. It has not well armed. Their uniforms look like janitor uniforms. Where is the money going? So literally, they're kind of holding us hostage with information. We know that they had information on like all of our past presidents back to at least Clinton and possibly Bush Sr. So who's really in charge? We've got IDF personnel walking our halls of Congress in uniform. Who is in charge here? Could you imagine if they wore like a PLA, like uniform, and you're like, you have dual allegiance, and to Americans that's like, no. If they're loyal to Israel, it's the same thing. Like, we've become so enmeshed and we literally are. Like, I didn't even realize it until like everybody's like, the Zionists, they control everything. I'm like, that's an anti-Semitic trope. Like, that's such BS. And then we got to here and I'm like, why are we passing resolutions that condemn anti-Zionism as it was just like, wow, what is even happening? So very clear that they're pretty much just doing whatever they want. And again, instead of stopping what's going on in Gaza, maybe supporting the ceasefire resolutions that have been put through, they would rather just bomb Yemen again, bombing nothing, wasting money and time for a country that is just on a hell bent on committing a full-fledged ethnic cleansing of a coastal region. I don't think, you know, it's kind of been mind-boggling since this started. I'm really not a big propaganda debunker, so I kind of watch other people debunking it, and watching Israel is kind of like, I don't think that they're capable of feeling embarrassed. Like, they're so not even brainwashed. They're so, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, the things that they say in front of the UN, putting on a yellow star and not feeling like that might not be the best idea, tells me you have no self-awareness and you can't read a room. The defense is, I mean, I talked to Stanley Cohen and Mohammed Akunji today after the ICJ, and I've been watching Norman Finkelstein's kind of commentary on it, as well as Mr. Rabbani. But they're at the ICJ saying just the most bizarre things, like using like Twitter posts as like evidence, and you're like, do you take anything serious? Like, what is going on in there? Highly recommend you reading Max Blumenthal's Goliath. It's 10 years old, but even then, 10 years ago, it was a maniac lunatic state. Nothing makes sense. And now you're seeing them come out of a kind of isolation. They self-impose their isolation, right? Because everything outside of Israel is scary, you know? And so they come out of their isolation onto the international arena, and you're like, you really don't know how to function like a normal state, do you? Like this, you don't even know that this isn't normal behavior. It's not normal to stand up and hold up. He held up a Daily Mail article at the UN, and it's like, and that was your evidence for a UN resolution and why the UN is anti-Semitic? Like, these people are unserious, and I can't tell if they're in. Half the time, I can't tell if they're in on the joke, or they're just not able to feel. Sometimes I'm like, they're doing it because they know they can. They have to be. Like, nobody can be this crazy. But then other times I'm like, they really believe the stuff that they're saying. Like, I'm just, it's a, as to quote Norman Finkelstein, it's a lunatic state. Lunatics. Absolute lunatics. But